Let's start off with a smile. Welcome to It's All Good, another podcast. My name is Adam Cox, live from Wichita, Kansas. Some of you may have known me as Lucas from the B98 Morning Show. And alongside me is my life coach and best friend, Dr. Eric Lane in Tucson, Arizona. Looks like you've been working out this morning.
Yeah, we've been working out, and we brought the, who do we bring? We brought the Vikings fan.
Oh, please, not Mr. Perfect.
We got to give, Nicole told me to let Mr. Perfect say a few things so that you might implement this week. So we're going to let Mr. Perfect give you a few suggestions.
Good morning. Right. I've made you breakfast in bed again.
Did you do that today? Did you make Nicole?
I'm going to tell you, I cannot make breakfast in bed and bring it to her because there's so many requirements after that. She needs salt and pepper with things. It turns into a disaster. So it's better that we eat breakfast on the table than in the bed.
We'll let him give you one more then, since breakfast in bed didn't work.
Sweet, yeah. You don't need makeup. You're always beautiful.
Now, I got to tell you, my wife is beautiful. I mean, she really is beautiful. But I will tell you this, without eyeliner, like the mascara and the eyeliner, she looks a lot like her brother. And so when she doesn't wear makeup, I call her Eric because that's her brother's name is Eric.
Wow.
She likes that, though.
Now, do women need makeup? That would be something that we could do an episode. Why do women wear makeup? Because I think men are extremely ugly. So if anybody needed makeup, it would probably be men.
Yeah, why is it the opposite? I don't know why that is, but that's how it is.
So what would you say attractive people are? If we looked at a percentage, and it's all good, so we're trying to be positive. I remember watching a Seinfeld episode the other day, and Elaine and Jerry had the conversation about how many people are attractive, and I think Jerry thought about 4%.
It's in the eye of the beholder, right?
Well, and her comment was, how come so many people are hooking up? And he said, alcohol.
Yeah, well, there you have it. That all makes sense. Well, Seinfeld, you know what's funny about Seinfeld? It's a show about nothing, but it always makes sense and it relates to everybody, so it's incredible. Right. All right, so before we start on It's All Good, I got to throw something out. And I didn't run this by you before, so I want to make sure that you're okay with this. I just thought of this. I want to do a segment since you are my life coach. I started thinking about all the things that you are for me. You ready? You're my life coach. You're my weight loss coach, my personal trainer, my chiropractor. You've given me spiritual advice. You've given me financial advice. So I started going through all the things that you actually can help people with. So I thought maybe we start the show with a Ask Dr. Eric. So I don't know how people would ask us. Can they email us or make a comment or something? And then at the beginning of each show, you can answer some questions. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that.
Okay. So both of my questions happen to be physical. So I'm going to ask you two quick questions. One, as you know, being my physical trainer and my chiropractor, my hamstrings are extremely tight. And you've shown me all kinds of stretches to do for my hamstrings. And every time I do those, I do feel better. My hamstrings feel better, but I'm not consistent with it, and I don't like stretching. Is there any way, now you can say no, but is there any way I can take a pill or something that will take away the tightness of my hamstrings? I'm just asking.
No.
Okay.
No pill.
Terrible. No, is there a disease? Do I have a disease? Because I don't think anybody else has the tightness on my hamstrings like I do.
A lot of people struggle with tight hamstrings. We sit a lot. We spend most of our time sitting, and so in the sitting position, it creates a shortening of the frontal muscles because the hip flexors fold forward.
Okay.
So as a process, we're shortening the hip flexors and the quadriceps. The hamstrings feel elongated a lot because that pelvis is tilted in that direction. So once our pelvis restores to its normal level, your hamstrings should not and will not feel as tight. But it's because we chronically, from the time we're in kindergarten, we begin to sit, and that creates this anterior pelvis, which affects our back because when I stand up, my pelvis is tilted forward to get upright. I have to overextend.
Yeah.
And hamstrings are elongated all of the time too because short front muscles lead to longer back muscles or posterior muscles, your hamstrings. So it's a problem in society because we do sit so much. So one of the things would be at the station to stand more and for people to be able to stand more. I recommend a stand-up desk for everybody.
So when Kareth and I are doing our radio show, it's like a 4.5-hour show. I sit and she sits, but we do get up periodically and just do steps, just stand up and walk up and down. Even when I do that, I mean, literally I think there's seriously something wrong with my hamstrings. I don't think anybody is dealing with what I'm dealing with. I had to go to the hot tub today and put a jet on my hamstrings just to loosen it up a little bit. But in your defense, when it comes to stretching, you've shown me some extremely great stretches that I'm either lazy or it's too painful or I don't want to do stretches. So I was hoping there was a pill that I can take, but usually there's never the magic pill that
and usually stretching does not really change muscle structure. We've been led to believe that if we stretch something, it's going to retain that memory, and that doesn't happen. So one of my friends and a guy who's well-known, Kelly Starrett, he spends a lot of times on mobilization. So instead of stretching the hamstring, only a stretch, throw your hamstring over a barbell as it's sitting across and then extend the leg out as you're putting pressure and work those areas of tenderness and tightness to start to break up adhesions and scar tissue, because sometimes shortening of the muscle is because we're all junked up in there. There's not enough ability for that muscle to move. So stretching is somewhat of a fallacy that we're actually going to change the muscle. Mostly it's just a matter of changing scar tissue and other formations in there. So doing more mobility will probably give you more flexibility than just straight stretches.
Okay, good advice. Second thing, and I won't take up all your time with my personal physical ailments. So my left elbow, and I'm going to show you exactly where it hurts, from here to here. It's just this little area right here. I was lifting weights today, and for the last like 3 weeks, it's sore and it hurts. So when I'm doing curls or something, just that part hurts, and I'm not sure exactly. My right one's fine, so I don't know. Is there a muscle there that I pulled, or is there something that I mean, it's hard to ask you because you're way over there and I'm over here, but
so a lot of people will have talked about golfer's elbow or tennis elbow.
Yeah.
But when we do curls a lot, if we're doing a curl with our hands opened up, we will put a lot more stress on the inside of the elbow. We can create what's called medial epicondylitis. So typically with our athletes that are struggling with that, we have them turn their hands into a hammer grip when they're doing their curls. So now more of the strain and stress is going to be on the other side of the forearm. But we use a lot of what we call instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization, working those areas where the tendon attaches and just giving it some break. If it gets really sore, we always recommend putting a little bit of a brace on that area to stabilize it. They have braces at drugstores to take the pressure off of where that muscle to tendon to bone attach, and they have specifically for medial and for lateral. So you want to give that area a little bit of rest in the sense that the strap will take the pressure off where the tendon attaches, but also modifying your exercises. When you feel it, you want to change the hand position because you're probably creating too much internal or external rotation of the shoulder that's putting stress on the medial part of the elbow.
That's exactly right. I was doing curls, and my hands are out like that. So hammer curls, I'll start doing that until it feels a little bit better. All right, so that's Ask Dr. Eric, and every day I'm going to have every time we do a podcast, I will have a question for you. It might not always be a physical question, maybe it's a spiritual, mental, financial, whatever it is, but today those are the two things I was struggling with. I was hoping that you could help me, which you did. Okay, to start the It's All Good, which, by the way, I love the title of our podcast because after watching this, every time I rewatch this, I feel like during the week, I change a little bit for the good, and it makes me feel good every time I leave our podcast. The first thing I want to talk about, there's two things that happened to me this week that I feel like I changed. One was, I'm going to call this not too proud to beg, okay? So we talked about how when you're in line and you do nice things for people and you buy their meals, or people are stepping up and doing great things for people without ever being asked. You do it out of the kindness of your heart, right? Well, this is kind of opposite of that. So I had a softball game on the other night, and I was coming back from my softball game. Now, in Wichita, Kansas, you can take either Kellogg, which is our main freeway, which is completely full of orange cones and it takes you forever to get anywhere, or you can pay and get on the tollway. So I have one of those K-tags where it's on the truck. I got on the tollway. I went to my game. On the way coming back from my game, I get off on my exit, And where the tollway is, where you can just drive by and go through, there was an 18-wheeler that was stuck in that lane, and the guy was outside working on his engine. So that whole lane was blocked. That's the lane that I usually go. So then I had to get in there was only one more lane. And by the way, this is at 11 o'clock at night. I had a doubleheader softball game, and usually I'm in bed by 9 o'clock. So this is already a late night for me. I roll up, and I see that there's a huge line of cars, and I had to sit there and wait. The one thing, if you know me listening to my radio shows, you know that I have no patience for lines. I hate lines. So I'm in line. I'm learning to be patient, and I'm waiting my turn. As I wait 20 more minutes, and now it's 11:30 at night, I get up to the thing, and the arm won't come up for the tollway. And I back up like 3 or 4 times, so I thought it would, and it doesn't go up. And I'm like, what am I going to do? There's no one around. It's 11:30 at night. I get out of my truck, and I walk around, and I'm hoping there's cameras on me, and I throw my hands up in there. It's like, hello, I can't get through. I didn't know what to do. So my mind is like focused on, am I going to break this thing to get through here, or what's going to happen? So then I go sit back in my car, and I hear a voice coming from a speaker. And the speaker is saying, sir, you owe 55 cents. And here's the circumstances that I'm in. I know I have a tag that has worked all the way there in Impact until now. So I left my wallet and my water bottle at home on the counter when I went to the softball game. Did not have my wallet. And the day before this happened, I cleaned out my truck, and I had no change in my truck. Usually, I have a ton of change in my truck. So I pull up, and she goes, that's 55 cents. And I said to her, I don't have any money. She goes, you don't have a credit card? I said, no. I left my wallet at home. I cleaned my car out yesterday. I am stranded. I got no money. She goes, well, you owe 55 cents. And I said, can you loan me 55 cents so I can get through here? And she goes, no, I cannot. And I was like, oh, my gosh. At this point, I'm dead tired. It's 11:30 at night. I get up at 4 in the morning. I start to get that feeling like I am going to snap. Because I'm easygoing, I'm nice and stuff until I snap. So then she says, I said, well, what's the alternative? Can't you you have my information. It says, because apparently my K-tag said it was invalid. For some reason, it didn't read it. So I said, you have my address. Can you just send me a bill for 55 cents? And she goes, no, I'm going to have to call the state trooper. I said, what? She goes, I have to call the state trooper. I said, why? She goes, because this is, you didn't pay, and you can't get through there without having this. And nothing made sense. I was dead tired. So she calls the state trooper. I'm sitting there waiting, and by this time, the line behind me starts to back up, and all these people, there's only one lane to get through. There's a truck behind me and all these cars, and if I was the guy in the truck behind me, I would have walked up to me and punched me in the face. I mean, it is ridiculous at this point. Finally, I punch out the thing. She gives me a certificate that says you owe 55 cents. She goes, sir, you're going to have to pay this within 30 days, or it's going to be $100. And I said, what? One of those things. So after all this, I was telling Kareth about this on the radio show, and she goes, why didn't you just go back to the truck and ask for 55 cents? And I thought to myself, I have a hard time asking people for things. I mean, I don't mind giving my time and my service and my money. I feel good about doing that, but I don't know how to ask for help. And so I thought about that is there something, a way for us to learn how to do that? Because I didn't even think, it never crossed my mind to even do the simplest thing as ask the guy behind me for 55 cents.
Well, she was right, just ask. Now, you talk about that story. We were in California with my brother-in-law from Sweden. We had 2 cars, and the tollways all over Laguna and those areas.
Oh, yeah.
And I never thought much about it because we're just going through and they're flashing, and about 2 months later, I got 2 bills for $1,100 and $1,200 for each car. One car was $1,100 and $1,200 because we didn't pay for 8 tolls. And
right.
About $1.50 a toll, but because California penalizes you, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, my gosh.
They'd already put a lien on each car. So I finally called them up, and I was able to negotiate my way out for like $150 per car for what would have cost me about $8.
Oh, my gosh. That's ridiculous.
So at least you did it the right way because of the way that you
By the way,
took it.
This happened like 3 weeks ago, and I still haven't paid that. I just now remembered that I still have that 55-cent ticket. I got about a week to pay before that turns into $100.
Do you send it in an envelope?
I don't know what to do. I'm just going to go to the same place.
I would send 55 pennies in an envelope. You'll probably have to. It'll probably cost you about $1.50 in stamps.
But for the purpose of it, then I realized it's my fault anyways. I mean, I should have had money. I didn't know the toll was going to be broken. Any of that. It wasn't her fault. I just learned that I should have done the simple thing, just ask, hey, can I get 55 cents? You know what I mean? The other thing I got to tell you is that at the softball game, something happened to me years ago. I would have handled this situation completely different. I think you would have too. You and I have changed so much over the years that things that we would have done 10 years ago, we're letting it go. And we know ourselves, so we're changing the way that we handle outcomes. So I'm at a softball game. I only play softball game once a year, and we play for like 5 weeks. So, and our team is not very good. So we play against teams that live for softball. They probably play 7 times a week. They're all together all the time. They have their, like when I got up to bat, they shifted the outfield. Like they're like professional softball players, right? So we're playing this team. I had gotten 3 base hits all to center field. I hit a line drive to center field. I don't hit home runs. I don't hit ground balls. I hit the same shot every single time. So I got up to bat and I hit a line drive like I usually do, but it was a little bit lower. And the pitcher reached out, like it was really close to him, and he reached out to catch it and he missed it. So it fell on the ground. At first, if you play softball and you hit anywhere near the pitcher, you're not trying to hit the pitcher. This guy had a mask on, and he tried to catch the ball. So in his mind, in the team's mind, I was trying to hit the pitcher. And at that point, there's an unwritten rule that I didn't know about. If you hit that, you have to walk off and go into the dugout and say, I'm out, I apologize, I tried to hit the pitcher, I messed up. So he drops the ball. My national instinct of playing baseball my whole life starts running to first base. I run to first base. There's a girl, we're playing in a co-ed league. There's 5 guys and 5 girls. There's a girl playing first base. So she's blocking the base as I'm running down the thing. So I'm trying to avoid every aspect of trying to touch her. So I go and I move and I try to put my foot on the bag, and she's like all the way into the baseline, the foul baseline. So I ran into her. She backed up a little bit, and I said, are you okay? Sorry. She didn't fall. It was, she covered the base. So at that point, they start freaking out. Everybody on this team. The shortstop starts cursing at me like I've never heard somebody curse at me before. Then on the other guy, they are screaming at me. And I was like, what did I do? And so then that was the third out. I got out. They go to their dugout. I go get my glove, and I'm playing third base. So as I'm walking to third base, I'm walking by their dugout, and I look, guys, I did not try to hit him. I'm not a good enough baseball player to aim at somebody and try to hit them. The last 3 hits, I've hit the center field. I was trying to hit the center field. Unfortunately, it was lower like a line drive, and I did not mean to hit him. I apologize. I'm sorry, right? I didn't know there's an unwritten rule that if the pitcher gets a line drive, you have to call yourself out and walk to the dugout. I've never heard of that. I don't play softball that often. So I'm explaining this as I'm walking to third base to the girl who called me every name in the book and the guy that wanted to take his bat and hit me in the head. So as I'm walking and trying to apologize, saying, sorry, I didn't know, I don't know the rules. They came unglued, screaming, cursing, and the guy got a bat and says, get out of here, like he was going to hit me with a bat. And I thought, we're playing recreational softball. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win $1 million at the end of this game. I'm trying to apologize. So when somebody tries to apologize, no matter what happens, I'm always the first one to go, look, okay, you apologize, no big deal. These guys did not want it. So the end of this story goes like this. The 2 guys, the pitcher and the guy that wants to kill me with a bat, get up to bat, and they look at me at third base, and I play third base really close. I play right on third base. Like, I'm not way back like the shortstop. I'm right up on there. So both of these guys try to hit me with some really hard ground balls. So one guy gets up and he drills a ground ball to me. I pick it up and throw him out at the first base. The old me would have said, I would have got all up in him after how he cussed at me. I didn't say one word. The next guy that got up was the other guy that wanted to kill me. And they're going to teach me a lesson. So he's going to hit another really hard ground ball to me at third base, which he did. And I scooped it up, and I threw him out. And I didn't say a word to either one of these guys. So as the game ended, both teams, and then the people on my team were yelling at them because they were yelling at me. It literally was a softball game I'd never been a part of before. I didn't know how to handle it. So at the end of the game, I was like, well, there's no way we're shaking hands, right? I thought there's no way. They're going to go to their dugout. So they come out, and there's a handshake at the end. So we go through, and everybody fist bumps all the way down saying, good game, good game, good game. At the end of that, a couple girls on our team and a guy on our team start saying stuff about them, and then even though we already just said good game, it started back up again. And so the old me would have stayed there to try to tell them how I feel about how they made me feel after I tried to apologize. But I just know myself that I would have probably got into a physical altercation. So I got my stuff, and I booked it to my car. Before they could even get out of their dugout, I got out of there because I knew if I stayed, something bad would happen. The old me would have stayed. So I learned something about myself, that sometimes you got to get out of situations that even though you feel like you've been wronged, that you just got to get out. And so that was another lesson that I learned this week, Dr. Eric.
Yeah, I think we talked about paradigms the last few weeks, and there's a lot of times in life that we and we become emotional because competition breeds that competitive nature of wanting to win, and sometimes it's hard to look at another person's perspective. But you did what we're going to talk about today. You probably smiled, gave him a smile, happy.
Yes.
Happy,
Hey, I'm sorry, and it was like that. Oh, wow. Okay. So real quick, usually on the podcast, we give you a couple of good stories, and then we're going to get to our challenge this week as well. Here's a couple of good stories that I heard on the radio this week that we talked about. One was a father and a son. You have three sons.
Three, yep. Three and two.
Yep. You have three sons, two daughters. So I have one son. So the bond between a father and a son, I don't know if people can, unless you're a dad, I don't think you can understand the bond that you have with your son. So there is a dad in Missouri. His son, 9 years old, actually fell into a bonfire and got burned up pretty bad. So the dad, knowing that this 9-year-old would have these burn scars on him for life, decided to go to the tattoo parlor and get the same exact burned scars tattooed on his legs in the same place, so his son won't go through life alone with that. And I always thought about the bond between a dad and a son. It really is incredible. I'm going to read you something he says. He says, it represents that no matter what happens in life, you can't break the bond between a father and a son. He says, I'm once again proving that I'm going to walk through life as his protector and his best friend, trying to absorb any pain away from him as I can. And so that just struck me as like, that is a great dad. I love that story. The other story, Eric, that came to mind that I saw was, you ever been scammed on the phone by somebody or tried to be scammed on the phone by somebody?
Yeah, about every day now.
Okay, so I fell for it one time, and my wife grabbed the phone and hung up, luckily, because I'm so gullible about stuff. It was about going on a vacation trip, and it's only going to cost $200, it's a $10,000 deal. Anyways, so there's a Virginia man who works with troubled teens, really good guy. So he got sucked into one of these deals where somebody called and told him that he had tickets and had an outstanding balance, and there were warrants out for arrest. And this guy said he was calling from the sheriff's office. So he convinced this guy to give him $1,000, scammed him for $1,000. And this is a good guy that helps troubled teens and does good things. Well, a family had heard about this, Penny and Mike Whitehurst. And what they did was they decided, you know what? That's terrible. He's a good guy. He's doing good things. He got scammed for $1,000. I'm going to give him $1,000. So this family reached out to this guy and gave him $1,000 that he was scammed. Well, Channel 3 News heard about that, and then they gave the family what's called People Taking Action Award and gave them a $300 gift certificate for doing something great for somebody. So it seems like that starts to snowball. Somebody hears about something doing good, and then somebody else steps in and does something good. So I really like that story. And the last story that I have is while delivering papers. Now, I didn't even know, I literally did not know that as a kid, I used to deliver papers to make money, right? I don't know if you ever had a paper route before, but back in the day, paper routes were it for kids, right?
Yeah.
So this kid, apparently people are still delivering papers. 4:30 in the morning, he's delivering a paper to a house. He sees that the front porch is on fire at 4:30 in the morning. For me, I was thinking about what would I do if I see a fire? A, call 911, and B, stay away from it, because I don't know anything about fires. I don't know what to do. He decided to go on the porch and bang on the door to wake up the house and wake up the people that were in there. Guy comes to the door, notices that that's on fire, gets everybody out of the house. Fire department comes and saves the day. The thing about it, if that kid just calls 911 and doesn't do any of that stuff before the fire trucks could get there, porch maybe catch on fire to the house catches on fire, they die. So decision making, as we do this podcast, it's all good. I learn something all the time as we do this. Things that I'm changing, and like the softball thing, changing the way I do things, learning from not asking for 55 cents.
I think it's just becoming aware of our current behaviors. We get really caught up in what we call a subconscious mindset. We just do things because we did them yesterday, and until we realize that we can stand aside, it's called metacognition, where we can actually evaluate our own attitudes, our own activities on a daily basis. And we'll go years. People go years and they don't really stand back and evaluate what they're doing. And so it takes a pause. I mean, there's stimulus all day long. We have stimulus and then we respond. Stimulus, response. And we all have a space to make the decision. Stephen Covey used to talk about it. He said, in that space really determines our future. It may determine just a little bit then, but eventually that space where we decide what to do will change our very lives and our habits and other things. Now, there's some people that have a very small space, he says, because they may have been abused as children and just had a horrible upbringing, but they still have a space. There may be some like me who had, I never had really anything to complain about. I probably got a huge space. I have no excuse not to react or respond properly, but we still get caught up and we do things because we did them over and over, and that habit starts to trailblaze giant chasms in our brain to where it's hard to get out of those. But that's exactly what happens when we start to say, I'm going to be aware of what I think, what I do in every situation. We can start to make those changes, but it's pretty tough to do it. But the first part is just being aware.
Yeah. And so that's one thing that this podcast does. It makes me more aware. So real quick, before we get to our challenge today, I just want to mention that the reason I'm wearing another Raider shirt, which is, I don't know if you can see, this is
that Ray Guy? Is that Ray Guy's jersey?
No, this is our quarterback, Carr, who actually got hurt last year.
Or Fred Belendikoff.
You're going old school. So the reason I'm wearing this is A, football season has started. It's preseason. B, my wife hates the Raiders, and so it's a big deal in our house. So as my son was growing up, I was trying to get him to be a Raider fan. Well, he's joined my mom's like, no, the Raiders are terrible. I'm not going to be a Raider fan. So he finally got Carr as his quarterback on his fantasy football team. And because he fell in love with Carr, giving him all his points on fantasy football, I've switched over. My son is now a Raider fan, even though my wife hates it and thinks that we're the worst people in the world. The reason I'm wearing this today is because in about 30 minutes, I'm going to a radio remote. And at this radio remote, I'm giving out Kansas City Chief football tickets, and I'm going to be handing those out in my Raider gear. I think it's going to be fantastic. Okay, Dr.
Love you there.
Yes. So tell us about what's the challenge for this week on It's All Good?
Okay, challenge. I have a picture that I keep up in my, actually across from my desk. So I'm going to sort of show you if you can see it. And if you look at this picture, it's pretty interesting. What you'll notice on that picture is everybody's smiling. And yet the guy in the middle, or the little tennis ball in the middle, yellow, he's really smiling. There's pictures you'll see. I remember when I researched and said, I want to get a good picture of smiling. And you'll find this same picture on Google or wherever you search. And it shows one smiling face and all the other balls are blue and they're frowning. And that was the one I was going to pick first of all. And I said, why do I want to hang around a bunch of people that are upset?
Yeah.
The indication of that is you're the smiling person. But the challenge this week comes, the Daily Echo today that I did features Dr. James Rouse, and he talks about smiling. If you've ever been around James, the guy's got a smile on his face all the time. But he challenges us, and that's what we're going to do this week, is to smile. Now, some people, you may have to break the literal lines in your face to get a smile because you probably haven't smiled in years, but there is some unbelievable data physiologically about smiling. We know it decreases stress and anxiety. We know you live longer. Actually, some studies show 7 to 10 years longer. We know that if you can't get a date, when we hook people up, you are 20 to 30% more attractive to people when you smile. Your immune system is boosted. People think you're trustworthy. We talked about endorphins, feeling good. It's contagious. If you're around people, they'll smile. Leadership, we know it's a great leadership quality. It increases optimism. It decreases your blood pressure. If you start to smile,
is that true?
Monitor your blood pressure, it will actually go down. And so there are endless. I mean, you've heard the old one that says it takes 20 muscles to smile. It's a ratio that's it takes a lot more energy to frown. But the one thing that we can always do, if we don't feel like smiling, incredibly, if you just smile, the goofiest smile you've ever done. I don't care what, just like you said the other day when you had, the nose
it's the Howard Stern smile when he was in the bathroom and his top of his tooth just lands on the bottom of his lip. He's like,
you had that real, but it's all you have to do is literally look in a mirror or just smile. If you're going to work and you just don't feel like it, just put a goofy smile on your face. Turn and look at the person next to you. I'm telling you, it doesn't take long. Within a minute to two, you actually feel better because physiologically your body's changing. Ed Foreman, a mentor of mine, he has a prescription for people that he actually got from a psychologist. And the psychologist treated depressed and anxiety-ridden people. And if he didn't have to use medication because it was absolutely necessary, his prescription would be 2 to 3 times a day to just start laughing with that goofy laugh for a minute or two. And Ed starts his seminars. He has people do this. And it's sort of interesting. You'll see people that are like, they're just, they're being a part of it.
Yeah.
Once they start laughing, it's noticeable. Within a minute or two, it just changes your demeanor. So this week you want to try to do that. Now you want to be careful because if you're a creepy man and you're looking at people with a smile, especially women, we don't want the creepy old man, young man smile. A genuine, happy, I'm smiling. You'll see a huge difference in the way people approach you. Whether you walk in a bank with a smile on your face and when you see somebody, when somebody cuts you off and you smile, it has unbelievable amount of effects on everybody that we're around. But more importantly, you will feel much better.
I love it. Okay, so that's the challenge. Get those smiles ready to go this week. You can ask Dr. Eric any question you want. We'll start that with the next podcast. Until then, it's all good. I'll see you soon.